It literally looks like we're collabing and we're about to do Chubby Bunny. Iconic.
Can you imagine being like in the Oliver chorus and the Beatles make their American TV debut? And you're like, hey, did you see me? I was in the back in Papa.
And I've also often said too, in a business sense, I only really trust gay people.
I've done my waiting 12 years of it in Azkaban. Oh. What's up with the 2-liter sodas? I'm keeping this in because what's up with the 2-liter sodas?
Ahoy!
Welcome back to Girl Historians.
I'm Carley.
I'm Blair.
And this is the comedy podcast where we talk about history and we are girls.
And we've been doing the Beatles. I have personally gone into what I would call a Beatles psychosis, where like it's the only content I'm consuming.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, and to try and relate to your friends when all you've listened to is Rubber Soul, like on repeat.
It's beautiful.
It's a lot. It's a lot's going on.
When we were brainstorming ideas for summer school, because if you don't know, we're kind of in a little summer school vibe. That's like the name of this kind of section of the podcast.
Yeah, in case you didn't know the name of the section of the podcast.
Yeah, it's technically a season, but now we're flirting with not having seasons. So, you know, I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're doing like a bunch of different littler topics because usually we'll do like one topic for like 8 episodes. And we're like, what if we did like 4 or 5? What if it's like summer school and it's just fun little topics? Yes. And I was in a Beatles psychosis when I was like, we should do the Beatles. I mean, I also know you to be like a big Beatles fan.
I do love
I
the
was
Beatles.
like, it's not, it was like I was suggesting it. But it's like suggesting piano to Mozart. It's like,
well, this
he's
is
already
the problem
there.
with you and me and our friendship is that we have like very similar interests in a way that like we can't always discern what is like a valid interest and what is like a niche thing that we're doing. Oh yeah. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're doing it from a like 2012 YouTuber angle today.
It literally looks like we're collabing and we're about to do Chubby Bunny Challenge.
Yeah. Today we're doing the Chubby Bunny Challenge.
Because we're recording from the desk, so it's like I've put my camera up high and then angled it down. Looks like we're Zoella.
Yeah, it kind of looks cunty. I kind of like it. Like, I do think that we've lost, how do I say this? Like, we've lost angle flattering selfie angles. You know what I mean? Like it used to be like in 2012, you just put the camera like a foot above your head. Yeah. You'd be like, well, my eyes are going to look huge.
But that's cunty.
It's cunty. And now we do like these poses that I think look better, but everyone's like posing their face now. Have you noticed this?
I don't know how to take a photo. This is okay. So this is my greatest fucking thing. I've never really known how to take a photo.
I don't know how to take a photo.
Like I've never been really super photogenic, and I do believe it's a learned skill. It's just a skill that I've never learned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was never good at it. When I was in middle school, it was kind of big to be like your friend has a DSLR,
yes,
and you're going to the beach and we're doing a photo shoot where you like hold up a piece of garbage. Yeah, exactly. It's like oh, you found a balloon and it's artsy or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was never good at them because I don't know what to do with my face. Yes. And I don't know how to do it. And whenever I'm on the social, they do outfit pics, and these are the bane of my existence.
But you have good outfits.
Yeah, but I look fucked.
No,
because
you
I'm always
don't.
like, I want to show up my cute outfit, but then they're like, they do an outfit pic every day of their fucking lives. So they like know how to pose.
They're checking in.
I'm like trying things. I'm throwing up peace signs.
Oh yes.
I'm like looking off into space to try and be coy. Like I'm just not, and that's okay. It's okay. Like, you know, it's okay to not be good at taking a photo, but it is a truth.
Yeah.
Of my life.
I think you would take nice photos.
Well, thank you.
Sarah, my roommate, will always bring up your headshots, and she'll be like, Carly's headshots are beautiful.
Those are good. I got headshots done by a Toronto photographer, if you're looking for headshots, named Jacqueline Vogel. And I've gone back to her because she was the first photographer I've ever worked with. Expensive. But like makes me look like myself, and I feel comfortable. Because even whenever I get my photo taken, especially if you're like, I'm getting these professional photos done today, like, you know what I mean? Like,
and it's you want them to last. You want them to be
like you're
nice.
like, I'm spending money on these. Like they better be good.
Yeah.
There's already a level of pressure. And you know, it's like money. You're like, okay, I'm here for like 2 hours, and I've got so many looks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but she's so like chill that like it feels good.
That's
like
so
I had to get
nice.
headshots taken once for like fucking some comedy. I had featured players or whatever.
Oh,
right?
love it. Okay.
And I remember like being like, I'm gonna cry. And like not because I'm like,
Yeah.
I look like shit, but just being like, I don't understand how to look good.
It's hard. Like, I think that is such a hallmark of a good photographer, that they know how to like pose people and make people feel confident. Because like I've taken headshots for friends before. I'm anywhere near professional, but like in the past, if someone's just been like, I just need some like headshots, I'll give you like $50. I'm like, okay, yeah, great. And it's like some people will just come in and be like, I hate the way I look. I don't know how to pose. Like, I hate every photo of me. Like, I'm uncomfortable right now. And it's like, okay, well, this is beyond my skills.
It is like, photographer. It's the same thing as I feel like being a hairstylist or something, where like a big part of the job is your social skills and making people feel comfortable.
And being like, you look hot.
Yeah. Because it's like, and also knowing how people want to hear that. Because I have a real thing of like, I feel like people are lying to me, which, you know, we don't need to investigate. It's fine.
No, I feel the same. I feel like everyone's lying to me about absolutely everything.
So yeah, if I was doing a headshot and they're like, you look so hot right now, I'd be like, fucking chill out. Like, I don't.
Shut up.
I'm wearing a high neckline. Like, I know myself. And there's moments in my life where I do feel that way, but I oftentimes feel as though it's disingenuous.
Yeah.
But to just be like, oh, these, like, being very specific and being like, oh, this looks really cool, or what, you know, like, there's things like that.
We're doing this thing.
And even the photos she posted, like, there was a comment on it that I really liked, just from like some random person, but they were like, I love when there's photos of women when they aren't really smiling, like it feels more genuine.
For sure.
And I was like, yeah, because I mean, nothing but love and light to my agent, but when I sent her the headshot, she was like, not to say smile more, but you're not like really smiling that much. But like my natural smile is not another person's natural smile. Like I have cheek muscles, like I have apples of my cheeks, so if I'm smiling, my eyes are really small. Like it's not a photogenic smile. That's fine. It's a natural smile. It's an actual smile. It's a genuine smile. It reaches my eyes. I'd rather have like my smile than like a really photogenic one. Yeah. But I'm like, girl, if I smile, these will be unusable because my face will contort. I have a face that's pretty expressive and it will contort into a way that a human face does not look naturally.
No, I know what you mean. I kind of have the same thing. Like I had to learn to kind of do this like like laughing's like like you're kind of like that's so otherwise I do like
same, and then like, they're like, well, I'm not gonna cast you based on that.
I know, it's like I can't see your eyes.
Your eyes are closed.
Your eyes are closed. Yeah, I need to get new headshots so badly, but it's also kind of like coming at a weird time because I need to get I'm gonna start plugging. I'm doing a sketch show either in the fall or in the winter with Brendan.
So keep your fall or winter open.
Fall and winters open, because if you guys live in Toronto, don't show up to my show, guys. I don't. You don't even want. I had a hard weekend, guys.
Yeah,
I had a hard weekend, and if you don't, what was I talking about? Oh yeah,
you need photos for that show. I'm assuming.
For that. Sorry, I sunk to a dark place there.
Disassociated.
I went really dark there.
It's like after we had brunch, I went to meet up with my friend Ben because we were going to the protest, and I saw him on the street smoking a cigarette, like looking into space in a way where I was like, "Oh, Ben has this is so like you know when you see your friend before they've like turned on and they're like NPC mode. Yeah. He was full NPC mode. Like I was like, where is he right now? Just looking off into the space.
There's a comment on one of our videos that like at one point it's like and I checked it out because I remember that video the day that we recorded. I was feeling a bit weird and I like fully like you can see my brain just shut off
for a moment.
Like I just travel like you're talking and I just like leave the room.
Yeah, you're astral projecting.
Like, yeah. Like just nothing behind the eyes. It was scary, but I mean,
I guess if you record for hours every week, it's bound to happen.
I know. I do dissociate though. I used to dissociate so hard as a teenager.
Me too. I was thinking about this the other day where I was like, that's so scary.
I know. I feel like I don't talk about it enough where like I would like get on the bus and like wake up downtown.
That's fucked.
Which I'm like, I don't know if that was like that for sure wasn't normal.
No,
but I'm like, should I have gotten that checked out?
I would imagine it's a lot more common for teenagers just because being a teenager is hell. Life is hell.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have it to that extent, but I definitely had what I still have sometimes when I get really anxious where I don't believe it's actually disassociating. I think it's has a different name, but it's basically like an internal panic attack.
You astral project.
Where it's like, instead of being like, oh, fuck, like outside and being like in panic mode, which I also get, don't worry, slay mama. But it's like, you just like shut down. Like your body goes instead of into a hyperactive state, you go into a hypoactive state.
Yes,
and I just like, I get so tired and I like zone out and I feel like I'm swimming. You know, that there's a different word for that, depersonalization or something.
Yeah. Derealization.
Yes. And I don't, it's only when like it's bad. I actually, since being medicated, really don't get it that much unless it's really, really bad.
Unless you're talking to me.
Yeah, unless I'm talking to Blair and she's bumming me out.
Fucking being a dick.
Yeah. Get them. But that stuff is really scary. Like when your teenage brain is just not meant to like deal with the trauma that so many teenagers are forced to have. Pulled a little twig off the blanket.
Sorry, there was a little twig on Carley.
That's okay.
It was my twig actually. So it's not her fault, guys.
So what's up? You said you had a hard weekend. You don't have to unpack that on the podcast if you don't want to unpack it on the podcast.
I can unpack it. Oh, but I was going to say, I need photos with Brendan. And then I also feel like we need girl historians photos.
I agree.
And I'm like, I don't want to get like 2 group photos of like things I'm doing plus my headshots in the same 3-month period in case like in the winter I look randomly radically different.
Well, this is the thing. You really have to commit to a hairstyle, which I feel like we don't talk about. Bitch. Like I want bangs, but I can't get bangs.
Can I be so honest?
Yeah.
I've been debating going blonde or brunette.
Whoa.
I know. And I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah, that's tough.
I know, it's really tough.
Because I do think you're an iconic redhead.
I'm kind of an iconic redhead, but there's something about it that just isn't feeling quite as like right anymore. So I don't know if I just like need like a different shade of red, but like
we should get our color seasons done.
Color seasons.
Because then you can figure out if there is like...
They're going to tell me I'm a bright spring and I need to be like an Emma Stone redhead. I know this is what I'm going to get.
That would be iconic.
This is the thing. I think I either need to go brighter, but I don't know if this is too inside baseball. But like, you know when you see an actress and she's got really like bottle red hair, like bright red hair.
Yes.
And it's like that bitch dyed her hair because she thought she'd book more.
But this is the blonde of it all, because this is the thing where actresses go super blonde either because they've gotten plastic surgery. Because if you go,
it softens your features.
Yeah, and it's just because like Emma Stone, love her, love that queen. But you can see there's a period of time when she goes bright platinum blonde. It doesn't really suit her, but it's just like a slay like, you know, look. And it's because she got a nose job. Like most people will do that. And like, hey, if you're getting plastic surgery as like a movie star, like that's your life. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm no judgment there. But it's like a lot of people will do that because you're like, oh my God, you look so different because your hair is blonde.
Yeah.
Not because you got surgery.
Yeah.
Right?
We're not even talking about how your nose is a completely different shape
nose.
Because you're blonde now.
Yeah. But also this is a thing for, again, inside baseball, but they say that if you go blonde, you book more just because life is better for blondes. People think you're really dumb, I will say. Like you will, it is the dumb blonde of it all. Because people look at you blonde. Or I would imagine red is the same though. Like I would imagine that being a redhead is similar, where it's like you just stand out. The world really does have, I do believe, like there is, I wouldn't say it's prejudice in the way that people who actually experience prejudice, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do think the cards are stacked against people with darker hair. It's not.
Yeah, it's I think there's like a lot of, like, we could really dig into that, but I'll just comment on the redhead thing, which is like, I think it's kind of like a symbol, like it kind of evokes a lot of different feelings. I think when you're a redhead, like I think that people just think that you're more entertaining.
Whoa.
I think it really is. I think it is a thing where it's like, because a lot of the times when you see those commercials where it's like very clear, like they have like one gay white guy, one black man, one like Hispanic woman, and then a white woman who's a redhead. Like it's always that.
Yeah, there's a real redhead pipeline for a lot of comedy roles as well.
Yes, like it's like you got like the Isla Fisher, like even like the Amy Adams of it all, like the Emma Stone. Like I do think that there's just kind of like, even like when Emma Stone has done like serious roles, like she has not been a redhead.
Yeah.
Like I think there's something inherently silly about it.
Wow.
And I think like even because Brendan and I, my comedy partner who I'm bringing up, and you guys should know Brendan.
He was on the live.
He was on the live episode. He also, he's got the scariest Instagram in the world. So I'm always like, you guys should follow Brendan, but it's so scary over there. I hate looking at his Instagram.
Yeah.
But
it looks like he's a bad guy.
He looks like a scary man. Love him. But we're both redheads, and people will always comment like, oh, you guys are like the two redheads. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like you never look at like another duo and be like, oh, the two brunettes, the two blondes.
Yeah, but I think that in other ways, again, it's like which is like really a dark way to think, but it is branding. Like having different hair colors is everything. Like you need to have people who either, like, you know what I mean? Like you need to have your boy and girl, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Boy and girl.
Like The amount of times people who do not know my names have called me like the little blonde girl. Do you know what I mean? Like if they're talking at a show or they see me or whatever.
I'm horrified
and I'm like,
what my descriptors are.
but that's branding.
Yeah.
Which is really dark, but
that's branding, baby.
It's like the Chapel Roan of it all. It's the Sabrina Carpenter of it all, of like, you need to have kind of just like an iconic descriptor.
Iconic descriptor. Yeah. But back to my weekend, I was randomly so fucking depressed.
Love.
I think I'm just like, I talked to you a lot about it and I'll talk about it on the pod, but like the podcast is doing well, which is great, but it's become a job. And I still have my Joe job. And then on top of that, it's auditioning and maintaining a social life and doing random other gigs and stuff like that. And then I've got like a couple of other kind of like larger projects that I'm working on. Yeah. And I'm just finding my plate is very full. And it's just kind of like, I think this weekend I had to miss out on a show because I couldn't get it off work.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, why? I think it honestly just sent me kind of spiraling because I was like, oh my God, like, this job that I love. Like I really do love my Joe job, but like it's just getting to a point where like it's not super sustainable for me. And I think that's kind of like a hard conversation I was having with myself.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, you know, people are different, but I've had the same kind of thing of just like a lot of different plates in the air, spinning a lot of different things. And, you know, I'll listen to LeBron James's podcast just because he's nuts and I really like him.
Awesome.
He has a podcast with his like manager or whatever.
Oh, that's
so it's
cool.
like really interesting, just talking about life and stuff like that. I love really big athletes like him, and because they're just kind of insane. Yeah. Because they have to be. Like you do just have to be a certain kind of person to like dedicate your life to competition and stuff like that. But he talks a lot about like in order to achieve excellence, and like let's not even say we're trying to do that with this, but you know what I mean, but in order to do the things that you want to do, you have to be selfish with your time. Like if you want to be a great basketball player, you have to be selfish with your time. Like you're gonna miss things, you're going to miss out on birthdays, you're going to be known as the person who will value X, Y, and Z over other commitments. And I think that can be hard to reckon with. I think especially someone like you who's a very social person, naturally, like knowing that you're going to miss out on things that you enjoy is hard. But it is also like, and it comes in waves, and that's why it's like nice to be a kind of more like a creative person where you work for a while and then you don't and whatever. But it is like such a truth of life that you just have to be really selfish with your time to get the stuff done that you want to get done. And the people who don't, and it's a choice again, of course, but the people who don't are the ones that aren't willing to do that. And some people aren't like that's not a bad thing. Let's say like there are people whose like gig is their relationships with other people. You know what I mean? Like they're like, I'm going to have this job because I love the being social aspect of my life more than anything else. Or I like just hiking and being in nature, so I'm going to do this thing that allows me to do that.
Yes.
But if you're connecting like passion or like goal setting with what you do for a job, it takes up a shit ton of your time.
It really does. And it's like, I had a big reckoning with that like a couple of years ago where I was like, oh, just like a lot of the friendships that I've held on to for years aren't really tenable anymore just because like so much of my life is work. Like, and now has become like pretty much all of my best friends I also work with in some capacity, like one or another. You know what I mean? Like you and Brenda are like probably my like two friends I spend the most time with now. It's because I work really closely with both of you. Yeah.
So you have a built-in thing where you see like us when you're working.
And then it's a little handshake agreement. But yeah, so it's just like interesting. I think I just kind of spiraled a little bit, and then I woke up on Monday feeling literally amazing. So maybe it was just hormones or the full moon. Full moon in Aquarius, baby.
Yeah, that fucked me up for sure.
I literally on Monday I was so scared I never get scared of like any astrology stuff, but I was like
that moon
was really kind of freaky, and also my moon is in Aquarius. So I was like, I just feel like I'm gonna lay low.
Well, you also sent me that TikTok being like this full moon specifically affects Tauruses and Cancers,
and I was like, thank God, because I think it like it's feeling more like a restart. Like I feel like my brain's kind of been like hard reset a little bit.
I agree.
Where I'm like, no, I can do things. But anyway, how are you?
I'm okay. I haven't been that good for a while.
You've been having a tough summer.
But yeah, there's nothing to do about it. Like, it's not brought on by any real kind of thing. It's just my brain is bad. I've got to just like reprioritize my whole life. I'm doing it incorrectly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting so sick and feeling so ill all the time. And I understand, like, I don't think I'm like medically chronically ill, but I'm chronically ill in the sense that I'm constantly sick. Do you know what I mean? And that kind of thing is just exhausting.
Oh my God, yeah.
To be sick all the time and miss out on things.
It's awful.
Yeah, so I've just got to reprioritize my life. Like, I'm doing, I mean, if you listen to the podcast, I feel like I say this every 2 months, but I do need to like actually make changes so I don't die.
Yeah.
Like, I have to like make decisions to like have a more chill life and not, I don't know. I'm just exhausted. Like, I don't want to be a bummer, so I won't talk about it too much, but it just, I'm not like in an awesome state. I feel very isolated from everyone in my life, and also like I'm making bad choices.
Yeah.
But that's like, it's also like my brain. Like, it's not necessarily.
It's also like from the outside, like it really does seem like you're doing very cool things in a really cool specific direction, which I feel like tells me that like probably the stuff that you are really stressing out about are not actually the things that like are informing you and the person that you are.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
It seems like it's like, because like a lot of the times I find that too when I tell people like, oh, I had a really hard weekend, and then I'll like say what happened. They're like, oh, I didn't even perceive that that might be something that's going on in your life. I figured that your life was all these different things that I did perceive. So
yeah, totally. It's okay.
I hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, I will. I think it's like it just takes time.
Yeah.
To like actually recover from anything. Like, I'm like, okay, it's been a week, so let's rally.
Also, being physically sick will go get you down. That'll f up your brain and your body for a while.
Yeah, definitely. And just like, I need to stop. Like, this is kind of like a really yucky thing to maybe admit, but I'm inspired by Brat, and identifying your more ugly emotions.
Doing cocaine.
I need to start doing so much cocaine. I think it will heal me. But I think like, even though it's not conscious when you're in a creative field, like your brain tells you need to pursue fame.
Yes.
And I think that is such a bad path for me. Like, it does nothing but make me feel bad. And like, when I'm aware of what other people are doing, I'm at my worst. Like, competing with other people. Yeah. It's just not conducive for me to be in a good spot.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I need to actually kind of like actively unplug in order to engage in my own life, as opposed to being engaged in what other people are doing.
No, 100%.
I'm just like, I don't know. Feels like maybe this time next year my life will be very different, but that also could be like off the grid. I don't know. Like,
I think it will though. Like, do you ever think back just like, oh, where was I a year ago? And you're like, oh, it actually like is so different now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it always changes, and change happens quite quickly.
Yes.
So like, that's like one of the only things, the guarantees of life.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I gotta stop, It's not my fault. It's like an environment I was raised in, no shame or anything, but like raised in like an environment that like values like external validation is the only validation that matters. For sure. Like, you being happy is not as important as you being successful.
Okay, but that is true.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you're happy. You should try. And it doesn't even matter if you think you're successful. Other people should think that.
Yeah.
And then you're okay.
But I also think when you stop chasing things like fame, that's when you get recognition. Like, I think that like fame and recognition are such like dark twins of each other, where it's like you can be just kind of like famous for no reason, or you can be like recognized for your talents and not really super known by a ton of people. Like, even people I think are famous and I look up to so much, sometimes I'll mention them to my friends and they're like, who the fuck is Rain Fisher Kwan? And I'm like, she's a massive celebrity in my brain.
Yeah. It's like niche fame, which is also the best kind of recognition to get, is like, instead of people who are like kind of like surface level invested in your life, having people that are, that like appreciate the things you do. Yeah. I don't know. I need to be a regular person soon. I just think that my body has been fucked up and my brain has been fucked up, and I'll be fine. Like, I feel like whenever I'm reticent to talk about a lot of specific mental health stuff online, because I see how it gets like weaponized against women.
Yes.
Basically immediately. Like, Emma Chamberlain's like, I used to struggle with an eating disorder. And then for the rest of her life, now people are like, you have an eating disorder. You're anorexic. You're anorexic right now.
Yeah.
And it's bad that you're anorexic.
And
it's a bad
we
example.
know that you're anorexic. It's like, what?
So it's like giving people specifics online, allow them to weaponize them against you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure.
But I have like a support system. That's all I'm saying.
Good.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'm always
fine.
here for you, girl.
I'm fine. You know what I mean? And I'm always here for you.
Oh, stop it. I know.
Like, we'll be fine. But right now I'm like, I bring it up just to be like, I think sometimes when I'm listening to people online and they're like, I'm fine. I'm like, what?
Really? You sound really bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you consider that you sound awful right now?
Or being like, if you're keeping up with this podcast on like a weekly level, like sometimes it just takes longer to recover from whatever it ends up being. And that's fine.
For sure. Yeah. It's interesting.
And it's probably the fucking moon.
I think it is at least a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And the year has just been weird. Like everything's weird right now. I'm ready for it to be over.
It's almost as if we're kind of living in the aftershocks of an incredibly traumatic societal event.
Yeah.
It's almost as if we experienced a collective trauma
that we're all dealing. It's so funny. So many things we've said in this pre-conversation are going to tie back into the Beatles, which is very fun. But no, like I was even talking to my friend of the pod, Maddie Foley, this morning because I was helping her record a self-tape, and she is like, in my mind, like such a like successful working actor. Like she's been on The Boys, she was in a like main role in a Canadian TV show, and she is just now like this movie that she did that's coming out that's like this like cult film prequel. And I went to the movies last night and there was literally a giant cardboard poster with her face on it.
That's cool.
So I took a photo and sent it to her, and this morning she was just like, my career sucks. In the garbage. And I was just like,
so funny.
But it's true. Like, you know, like you're always kind of going to feel certain ways about certain things. So what are you going to do?
But fame makes you happy.
It does. And it's better than love.
It's actually a lot better than love.
A lot better than
and
love.
And it's not like the kind of thing of like the actual mortality rate of famous people is higher than like any other, like,
no, it's higher is in higher frequency, higher vibration, higher good. Actually, you die in a blaze of glory, and that's
it's better to burn out than fade away.
It's better to die out in a blaze of glory than to die of old age surrounded by loved ones.
No, you need
and
to
a family that you've
kill
honed.
yourself.
You need to kill yourself at 27.
Exactly, and you are an artist.
My God, I'm past the 27 club, baby girl.
Wow.
I know, I'm so old.
That's good, though.
Yeah.
I honestly think, and this is nothing against people that actually did die in the 27 club, very sad for them.
Nothing against the dead.
But, like, to die that young now is like by self-inflicted, let's say. I don't want to say tacky because it's sad, but I think a lot of people who are sick in the head are like, I'm going to be the 27 club. And I'm like, that's fucked up.
That's really young.
You should try to live. Like 27 is really young. And also, like, we all know people who died young. You know what I mean? Like,
it's fucking tragic.
Yeah, like, it's sad when people die young. They didn't get to do a lot of things. Because also, like, your 20s, you're barely an adult. Like,
oh my God. Well, reading about, like, Janis Joplin's death and how, like, the night before she was, like, crying because she thought this, like, random guy didn't love her. And she just, like, felt so unloved and so ugly. And I was like, bitch, like, could you not have lived another like 40 years? Like,
I know.
Like, it gets me so in my like emotions because like I think a lot of people who do die young are just put in these like horrible circuits, especially when you are famous. Like, I don't think we realize how young people like Kurt Cobain and Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix
is
were.
So young, dude.
Like, can you imagine writing?
I know when you're 16, it feels like literally fucking ancient, but then when you're in your 20s, you're like, what the fuck? Because I remember when I was young being like, I don't care when I was suicidal, but like, I don't care if I die before I'm 30. Like, I don't even want to live to be 30. And now I'm like, but it gets kind of, even if this year is fucked, like, it does get better literally every year. Like, I really do feel like I don't think maybe even my 30s, but I feel like by the time I'm in my 40s, like, I'm going to slay.
Oh my God.
Even like, I remember listening to a Suki Waterhouse interview because we love Suki on the pod.
Oh my God, Suki Waterhouse. I love her.
And she talks about how, like, because she got started in modeling and like you just get preyed upon in modeling constantly, like she's really enjoying being in her 30s and like being actually able to like protect younger women.
Yes.
And even in these like improv circles, like finally now there's like another generation of like younger women starting out.
We can be like
yeah, and it's like nice to be a part of it and see people like learning their, I don't know, voice and things like that.
For sure.
And it's not, I'm fucking happy it's not me. But yeah.
Couldn't be me.
I saw at like a random theater that watched The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Huge.
Which was awesome. That movie is god tier.
So
It's
good.
so good. Alfonso Cuarón. Like,
It's crazy that they, for the first 2 movies, got Christopher Columbus, who like before that directed Home Alone. No,
Yeah.
not Home Alone.
But he's done.
Wait, did he direct Home Alone?
Well, you can find out on
But
Letterboxd.
this like this director who's like exclusively done like children's movies. Like I think he did like Stuart Little. I could be completely
no, you're right.
butchering
He
his-
does kids movies.
He does kids movies, and then they got the like fucking Alfonso Cuarón, whose
And then-
movie before that was like filled with
Yeah, and then he
like,
does Roma.
sex scenes. Yeah, it's
and then
crazy.
and then the guy who does the 4th movie is also like a okay, yeah, what did he do? Yeah, he did Home Alone.
oh my god, I
Home
was
Alone 2.
right.
He did Rent, which is insane.
He did Rent. That's what he did. No, that's crazy.
Because who did the
Why
Goblet
Rent?
of
Why Rent?
Fire? Because
Oh,
they're
it's David
also,
Hayes. No, that's the producer.
Here, I'm looking it
Who
up.
did the?
Because they're also kind of a crazy.
Yeah, well, Goblet of Fire. They okay.
Okay, it's Mike Newell,
No one
who did
does.
4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Do you guys care about my Harry Potter movie opinions? Because they f***ed up the 4th one. They absolutely the 5th one.
They asked.
I liked the 6th one.
I love the sixth. I think
sixth
the
one's really
6th one
good.
is so good because it's like a
Yeah.
teen movie.
It's like a teen movie, and they cut out all the backstory stuff, which really pissed off kid me.
Yeah,
but like
but it's
now
good.
I'm like, okay, whatever.
let
If you
me
want
tell
that stuff, you can read the books.
Like, we should honestly do what somebody suggested of we should do some kind of Harry Potter thing, like a stream, and donate the money to the Trevor Project or something like that.
That'd be fun.
Because I feel like I have an incredible amount of Harry Potter trivia in my brain, and you have more.
It's disgusting.
It's kind of crazy how much
It's
you know.
Fucked. It's so bad, guys.
But yeah, I agree. I don't have really any interest in watching the first 2 because they are kids movies, but I get it. I get that they are what they need to do. 3rd,
I'm
rocks.
not going home. Not really. Harry Potter leaving on the train, bitch.
You're gonna get just killed or worse, expelled. But the 3rd one rocks. Like watching this movie, I was like, this movie is so fucking good.
so
At every
good.
core, there's a child that's a Gryffindor classmate who you never see again. He's like this little kid, and he's black. He's like black. He's the one that's
Oh
like,
no, the one who delivers the prophecy.
yeah, it's the Grim.
He was in this summer or last summer. I saw TikToks of him. He's at the Globe. He's in like a Shakespeare play.
Okay, good, because he. I was saying to my sister, I was like, he eats it up, and you never see him again.
No, he's like a stage actor
There's like
now.
a random part in the movie. He's like a child. Let's say it in context. He is a child, and he's like, they're like, they're gonna catch Sirius Black. Don't worry. And they're like, well, he got out of Azkaban, and he's like, it's like trying to catch smoke. It's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. And I'm like, who the is this kid? Why are you speaking like that? He's so good.
So try and cut. And the way he delivers it, like, is haunting. Like,
It's
is
haunting.
like it is so Shakespearean in the way that, like,
Yes.
this is King Lear.
I'm happy he's at the
As a
Globe because
child.
he's so good.
Yeah, no, he's like, I want to look up his career, but yeah, he was like in, I don't even know what the fuck he was in, but it was some like
Because
legit
he's not
Shakespeare
in the
thing.
other Harry Potter movies. He's like
No.
only in this one to be like,
It's crazy.
it's the Grim. Also, yeah, Emma Thompson.
So good.
Oh, so good.
So good.
David Thewlis, Gary Oldman, who is a problem as a person, let's say, but like there's
When
that
did
scene.
Gary Oldman start being a problem? I heard this recently, and I was like, "That's crazy."
Well, there was a different actor who got canceled for saying really anti-Semitic things,
and then Gary Oldman was like, "Well, we all say those
yes,
things,"
yes,
which is like, just don't say anything.
Self-cancel yourself. That's the fucking Roman
Yeah.
Polanski of it all, being like, if like that producer being like, look, we all had sex with kids in the 70s, and everyone's like, what? Why are you saying
Don't
that?
say
Why are you saying
that.
that? But like, there's that part when they're all like in the Shrieking Shack, and it's just like Alan Rickman, David Thewlis, and Gary Oldman acting
so
together.
good.
And it's so funny because I do think the kids are quite good for what they
Yeah.
need to do. But like that scene gets immediately paced up when it's just them all talking.
my
like,
God, it's so
like
good.
so good.
When David Thewlis and Gary Oldman, they do their like Lupin Sirius Black reunion hug, where you
Yes.
think like Lupin's gonna like kill him, and then they hug,
knew
and
all
they're like,
about the madness
"You're his-
with it."
You're his friend. You were helping him get in.
He's a werewolf. That's why he's been missing classes.
Like, damn, that twist is so,
So good.
good.
And Peter Pettigrew being that rat.
That's
because when
crazy.
you're watching it, it's so funny because they're like, let's kill him, Remus. I want to kill him. And I'm like, use names.
Use
because
names.
this would be
Use
fixed
names.
immediately if we go, no, it's the rat. We're not
Yeah.
going to kill Harry.
Yeah, it would have been. It kind of seems like you came in purposely and didn't say the rat to make it sound like you were going to kill Harry to build
Yes.
up dramatic tension.
Exactly.
Let me kill him. Let me kill him. I've done my
Also,
waiting. 12 years of it in Azkaban.
Oh, it's so good. And like, he is a problem, but he is such a good actor. Like, it is crazy. They bring
Yeah.
so much. This is a big big problem I'm having because I'm watching all these Fantastic Beasts movies, and I'm like,
Jesus.
nobody understands how to bring the juice that all these other actors are bringing, of like bringing in characterizations, like bringing in, like making them weird and specific.
Yeah.
Like now every single character is just normal. Like it's like Zoe Kravitz giving us nothing, even though I know Zoe Kravitz to be a good actor.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just so boring. The only person, there are 3 people who are doing good acting. Actually, I'll say I'll open it up to 5, but they're not that great in the movies. Okay.
Yes.
And one of them, hate to admit it. So let's say that off the top.
Ezra Miller.
No. Well, no. They are, I would say, incredibly horrible in these movies.
Okay, that's awesome.
Besides screaming.
That's really good.
But one of them is Johnny Depp.
Oh yeah, I know.
Which is tough.
Unfortunately, Johnny Depp eats in most things he's in.
It's tough. Like I'm not of the camp that he is a great actor, because I do think he did fucking Captain Jack Sparrow was amazing. Did Edward Scissorhands and was like, and now I'll make the same choice for every single character till the end of time.
Yeah, like him in Crybaby, iconic.
But like sometimes he does like a lot of samey stuff. Like I'm not of the belief. And again, let's say, and people will get mad and they'll send bots, but like. Beat the shit out of Amber Heard. Like,
for sure.
There's video evidence, babe.
Oh, for sure. We did Amber Heard so dirty.
She'll get her redemption.
She will.
But he at least like seems to know he's playing a villain and try. You know what I mean? Like at least like anything, because so many characters are normal. Eddie Redmayne doing a big autistic character choice, but
Epic.
adding any kind of like aw. There's the guy who plays Jacob, his like sidekick.
Yeah.
Fucking great. Really good actor. I think he's just like a regular actor.
Guy?
Yeah. But he's like so good at actually bringing any warmth and character to anything. So much of these movies are so cold. Jude Law is Dumbledore, which when I saw the casting, I was like, oh,
that's crazy.
But I'm like, at least somebody's acting again.
At least we're getting Jude Law.
And in the first movie, there's a girl who plays Queenie with a blonde bob, and she's really good. And then in the second movie, she forgets how to act, and that's not her fault. I really do think this is a failure of the directing. Like the movies are bad. Like it's so hard to be good in a bad movie.
Yeah.
Like again, I love Zoe Kravitz. In High Fidelity, she is so good.
Yeah.
In these movies, you would love it.
I read it back in the day.
She is so good. And I love the movie too, but she's so fucking good. But in these, she's ass.
Yeah.
Like it's so boring.
That's a
But then you have like, you watch like Prisoner of Azkaban, it's like, I did my waiting. 12 years of it in Azkaban. Or it's like so fucking Sybil Trelawney screaming at a child being like, you have the Grim. Like, I just need them all to be kookier as opposed to just them all being normal.
I think that was kind of like what made Harry Potter so like catch on for so many people, is that like it's objectively just really silly, but everyone commits.
Yes, exactly. And it's, you know, you get the same, I mean, it's not super silly, but it's the same kind of thing with the Hunger Games, right? Where it's like, this is a child movie, but for some reason I'm watching Jennifer Lawrence and Philip Seymour Hoffman do the acting exercise of a life. Like Philip Seymour Hoffman gave his dick and balls to that performance.
Oh my
he's
God.
eating, and there's no
performances
reason.
in the Hunger Games
are
crazy good.
Like he's insane. And also Jennifer Lawrence is a fucking phenomenal actor, like the actor of a time, which is why it's so great. Like it's like, I do believe Daniel Radcliffe to be a very good actor now, but
he was bad in Harry Potter. He was bad in almost every one of those damn movies.
He was that friend.
He was a friend. It's like, okay,
I hope he comes, because when he comes, I'm gonna kill him. Like,
okay, Dan, take lunch.
Like he's just not
go
good
eat your Yorkshire pudding, Dan.
But Jennifer Lawrence is already good, because she's also older, cooked. Right? Like if you're picking a child to cast in a movie from 11, you don't know who's going to be a good actor. Because also people who are good child actors are often not good adult actors, and people who are good adult actors are often not good child actors or child actors at all.
No. It's you gotta cook. You gotta cook. But no, Hunger Games, crazy performances in that. Like,
I know.
Absolutely just like bringing it 1,000%.
Balls to the wall. Donald Sutherland.
Oh my God, rest in peace, King. Even Josh Hutcherson in that, incredible.
And Sam Claflin.
Sam Claflin, heartbreaking performance. Jenna Malone. Like the list goes on. Jeffrey Wright, dude, like in that movie, absolutely fucking eating. Also, Elizabeth Banks,
great,
one of the best, like one of my favorite performances of all time. Stanley Tucci, incredible.
In the performance of a lifetime.
Happy Hunger Games.
He's so good.
Oh, dude, I love the Hunger Games so much.
I'm excited for this Haymitch book too.
I know, me too. Can you get on pre-order yet? Can you tell me when I have to pre-order?
Yeah, I'll let you know. You can pre-order it now.
Know. Can I pre-order now?
Yeah. My friend Lake has already done it.
Never know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm behind on like I feel like I'm behind on pop culture things in a way I've never been in my life.
You're obsessed with the Beatles.
I know. I think
Should we talk about the Beatles?
I'm doing way too much back catalog shit.
I know.
Yeah, let's get into the motherfucking Beatles. The Beatles have recorded their first songs with George Martin of EMI. They are kind of like already pretty big in Liverpool. Something we need to know about the Beatles at this point is that they are cooked. They've done hundreds of performances. When they were doing their residencies in Germany, they would perform for 8 hours straight, like every single night. Like they would go in at 7 and play till like 2 o'clock in the morning. Like it was nuts. Like this is something that I think really kind of sets them apart from other bands is that they are so cooked. They are like
ready to go.
And they are professionals with interacting with their audience.
Yeah.
A lot of like Western kind of like music in the States and America was very kind of like prissy and refined. They were like these rebellious kind of like, you know, like ne'er-do-well types who really knew how to like get a crowd going, knew how to be kind of crazy.
Well, even like speaking as like a One Direction girl, like the British cheek,
yes,
is a really powerful marketing tool, especially when you're creating like people for young boys young girls, like young boys for young girls to have a crush on.
Yes.
You know, like being like, oh, because oftentimes like mischievousness in America is like this person is a dick.
Yeah, they're a prankster and they
like
suck.
Think of like the MagCon boys or even like Justin Bieber, who's Canadian, but still of like they're doing crimes. Like they're like, oh, I'm gonna slash your tires. I'm throwing eggs on you. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, they're just kind of like mean and scary. Yeah. Where it's like the British cheek is just being like, oh, he's like saying something under his breath.
Yes, exactly. Like
it's being sarcastic.
And this comes up in a huge way because like no one had ever really done that before. Like no one had ever really done these kind of like cheeky kind of interviews. And so Brian Epstein, who is the Beatles manager, he finds them. We went over this last episode. We were doing a little recap in case you're just tuning in now. He finds them through this recording of My Bonnie that they've done the backing band of. And part of what appeals to him is their presence as like these boys and these kind of rebellious figureheads. And he kind of looks at them and he thinks like, I'm going to package these guys up so they look like really clean cut musicians, kind of like sneak them into the pop culture zeitgeist and then let them go wild.
Yeah.
Like he knew what he was doing.
It's like a naughty schoolboy.
Yeah. Like,
and I do think this is why, like, we talk a lot. We've talked about this week because you texted me saying, how did I know Brian Epstein was gay?
Yes.
And I literally, that day, it was really crazy. Yes. Literally that day, learned that Brian Epstein was gay.
No, it's crazy because the book I'm reading on the Beatles.
Why would they talk about it in that book?
It was published in 1968 and it wasn't really publicly known.
I think was until 1967. Wasn't that when gay marriage was not great gay marriage, but being gay was decriminalized?
Yeah, which is the same year that Brian Epstein died. Which is rough.
That's
so
tough.
He died right before being gay was decriminalized.
That's tough.
And they kind of like, there's so many things. I'm just going to talk about Brian Epstein for a minute because like, I feel like we underserviced him. So he was like the Beatles manager. He was always kind of like a bit lost. He wanted to be a dressmaker and his father was like, that was like when I read that in the book, he was like, he wanted to be a dressmaker. I was like, oh, so you mean he was gay?
He was gay.
So he was gay.
Let boys make dresses.
They do on, can I say men know how to dress on women?
Well, this is what I was, if they're straight, get lost. No, but like, this is what I was saying. Like, I think that the packaging of it is so good and it makes sense because gay men really are such tastemakers when it comes to culture of like a lot of times like nobody knows what a teen girl wants more than a gay man.
Absolutely. And this was like a huge part of I think why he was the absolute best person who could have found them.
Like think about the iconic the images of womanhood that are iconic to young girls. Audrey Hepburn and Breakfast at Tiffany's. Truman Capote wrote that. Gay. Sex in the City. Gay. Like the gay man's
Oscar Wilde.
Like gay. Like a gay man's idealization. I don't know.
Idolization.
You know what I mean.
Idealization.
You know what I mean.
Idolization.
But of womanhood is incredibly, incredibly attractive. And I'll also extend that because I think a lot of times straight men and women's understanding of womanhood is a lot more intrinsically tied to violence against women's bodies, which I have literally no interest in engaging with. No. Like, I'm sorry, can I watch a single TV show about women these days without rape? Like, I get that we hadn't talked about it or engaged with it in a long time, but now it feels like a trump all card just for like something bad happened. It's what unplanned pregnancy used to be.
Yes.
Where it's they used to have unplanned pregnancy was the only thing a shitty writer could conceptualize.
Would be bad to happen to a woman. Yeah, absolutely.
And now it's sexual violence, which is very real and happens, but I don't need to read about it if you have no take on it other than it bad to woman.
Yeah, it bad to woman. Like, what does it mean?
A lot of times when gay men write experiences of women, it's obviously still quite complicated, but it is, you know, the ups and downs of being a woman, but it is a lot less tied to sexual violence because they haven't experienced sexual violence as a woman more often than not. And they're not a straight man that almost kind of like intrinsically, subconsciously like understands that their relationship towards women and sexuality is ingrained in violence. They're just like, these are my friends and people I like.
Yes,
Do you know what
exactly. I think you're like very much on the money with that.
Can you believe, like, it would be, if we had Sex in the City now, like there'd be some horrible fucking like Me Too 7-episode arc. It'd be unwatchable. Yeah. And not because those arcs are unwatchable, but because not everybody has a new thing to actually say about that.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree. And I think in Brian Epstein's case, like, he never really came to terms with his sexuality. Like, he got, because
it was illegal to be gay.
Yeah,
like, so that might have a thing.
When he was in the army, he took an officer's uniform to go cruising at the London gay bars. And then got like in trouble for stolen valor and went into like army prison. Like, this guy is like, he's growing up in a hard time. And he comes from like this kind of like upper class Jewish English family, which is like already dealing with a lot of like anti-Semitism.
It's not fun to be Jewish in this time.
It's not fun to be Jewish in this time, famously
in the aftershocks of the worst thing to ever happen.
Yeah, probably not a great time. So like, you have to think about him kind of like, and also just like engaging in subculture, because as we know, like, queer people are almost always on the front of new cultural movements and stuff like this. I think that there's going to be like, and I think that there is kind of like a growing kind of praise for Brian Epstein, where it's like, oh, he saw something in the Beatles that other managers weren't going to be looking for, which is that like, he's a 27-year-old closeted gay man. He's looking at them and he's thinking like, women,
would I fuck them? Like,
he's thinking like, would I fuck these guys? Women will be attracted to these guys, and also men will want to be them. Like, I think that he saw the scope of what it could do to young people just in terms of like idolization, because like, and we'll get into it talking about Beatlemania, but there's been a lot of kind of like psychology stuff around like, why did Beatlemania happen? Was it like mass hysteria? Like, was it these like women kind of like, you know, there used to be articles of being like, women are orgasming at the Beatles concerts. And I really think that it's more about kind of like this idea that like you can be attracted to someone who feels very real. Like, it's this idea like being attracted to the bad boy. And there's a reason that like all of these girls wanted to like marry the Beatles. Well, and all these men cut their hair like them.
Speaking as a person whose entire life has been
bad boys.
No. Imagine that's my path.
With bad boy. I'm always with the bad boys.
But somebody who's like a fan, like, I feel like growing up, where I remember like I wasn't a huge Justin Bieber fan, but had lots of friends. I wasn't not a Justin Bieber fan, but then like I was a One Direction girl.
A hater.
You know what I mean?
Also
like
a hater.
Well, this is what I'm saying. It's like you just quite simply can't understand in the way of a normie fangirl can.
Yeah.
There is something really powerful about being in an environment where it feels allowed and expected to indulge in parts of your personality that would be vilified and made fun of.
Absolutely.
Right? So like even something like the Rolling Stones, which were successful in their own way, although albeit much more masculine, much more bad boy, it would feel as though, obviously you can still go and scream or whatever, but that feels more akin to something more cool, even if it is the same amount of like put together and orchestrated.
Yeah.
So you would go to like a Rolling Stones concert, it feels like, and be like, I have to act cool. Where there's something in more of a boy band environment of being like, no, I'm acting like a maniac. Like I'm acting insane because they're not cool either. Like, you know, like there's no part of this that's they're not trying to be cool. They're like, they are literally like the guys you can take home to mom and dad, but
and be like, sorry about this, but this is who I've picked.
No, exactly. Like it's like in between the Beach Boys and the Rolling Stones.
For sure.
It's like right in the middle.
It's the sweet spot.
And they just luckily, like in a time when branding didn't really seem to exist, have very different personalities.
No, absolutely. And I think they were aware of this. And I think that that's too, again, I feel like we need to give due credit to Brian Epstein, their manager, who I think was really conscious of this and the effect that they could have. And it gives a lot of context to why he believed in them so much. I think that like,
I know.
And even in this book I'm reading, like a lot of the meetings that they take with Brian Epstein, like everyone's way more willing to meet with them because a lot of the managers were like old and stuffy and kind of like just very by the book, kind of like this is the way it's always been. Because you think about like the artists that they were promoting like jazz musicians. They were promoting these like kind of like very clean cut bands that were all wearing suits and like were press trained to like never say anything bad and like didn't smoke, didn't drink. Whereas like Brian Epstein was very much like a party boy, again, like he was 27 when he took on the Beatles, which like was older than them, but still very much, as we talked about early in the episode, like a young age to be.
Well, and there's also something to be said about like lateral networking.
Yes.
Of like you're out and about around the consumer and the people who you're actually selling to. And also people love like youth. Like youth really can be a real asset just by being like, you don't have to be actually well connected with your finger on the pulse if you're young.
Yeah, exactly.
People just assume you are.
You just kind of assume you're with it.
Definitely.
So
I also remember reading about Brian Epstein, like his entire life, obviously because he was gay, so his life was hell. Just really quite hard.
Just as a thing.
But he was always afraid of being replaced.
Yes.
Because he wasn't like, didn't come from like a managing background.
Yeah. No, he worked at a record store.
Yeah.
And kind of was just like, I'll do it.
So nothing but love and light to Brian. We love Brian.
Yeah, I really like, I feel like we always talk about on the pod, like what's the unexpected piece of learning about this that you really kind of grasp onto. And I think for me, it's Brian Epstein. Like I'm so fascinated by him and who he was. I feel like I kind of joke about how like whenever somebody is a celebrity who's making bad movies or something, I always like blame their team. Yeah.
But I do really think like the people who are in really good things.
Yeah.
And the people who are in horrible things and you never see, it's because they have good or bad teams.
Yes.
Like Sabrina Carpenter's switching up teams after she gets out of her Disney contract and finally getting like a career revival.
Yeah.
It's not because all of a sudden she was making banger music. It's like if you have a good team behind you. There are celebrities where I'm like, why the fuck are you in this movie?
Why would you do this?
What, like somebody needs to put Blake Lively's team down if she has a team. Like somebody needs to they should be in prison.
Her team is herself and her florals.
They should be put in behind bars because like it's just horrible marketing.
It's crazy.
Somebody like Rachel Ziegler has a great team. You know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't surprise me that the Beatles have a good team.
Yes.
You know?
No, absolutely.
And I've also often said too, in a business sense, I only really trust gay people.
Yes, I agree. We only trust the gays. Okay, so the Beatles' debut album, Please Please Me, is released in Britain on January 12th, 1963. It's an immediate hit.
It's a kind of crazy time to release an album, but go for it.
In 1963?
Just January.
I know, in January. It's nuts. It's also one of the like coldest winters that Britain's seen. And that's
so not that cold.
Not that cold, but but
it's cold for them.
But it's kind of one of those things where
and also
like,
their buildings don't have any kind of insulation.
It's nuts. It's nuts. So it's kind of been said that like it was cold and they needed some happiness, which is going to be an ongoing theme. So this album was recorded in one 13-hour session and it remained number one on the charts for 6 months, which is crazy.
I always find it so funny that this music like rock music like made the people feel this way.
I know.
When you listen to it now and you're like, yeah, sure.
Well, when you read accounts of it, people like the one thing that people say again and again about the Beatles is like I heard it for the first time. I never heard anything like it.
Yeah.
And now it's so ingrained. We're sort of like, you never heard anything like this song, but it's true. Like,
but it's the thing that everything is, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing when you even listen to like stand up from like the 80s. Like Jerry Seinfeld is not like in reinventing the wheel, but like in a way he was.
Yeah.
But it's like now everybody does that.
And rock and roll had kind of like faded a little bit. Like they did the whole Elvis thing, and then it was kind of in this lull where it was like,
well, and
just
that was still
not
very
really
like
happening.
southern. This fly is obsessed with you.
I know. It's because I smell so sweet.
Aww.
Aww.
Sorry. Unplug it. No, we're good.
No, we're good.
Yeah, because that's a lot more like southern influence, like blues influenced. Where even though obviously the Beatles are a bit, but the Beatles don't feel as like, it also makes sense why they were able to find such success, because like although it is still very much like rock and all that stuff, it doesn't feel as like, when you hear like a slutty saxophone or like there's like jazz and blues inspired elements and you're like, this song is slutty even though it's like I love my girlfriend.
Yeah.
The early Beatles stuff is not that.
No. They're like pretty sober at this point. Like they drink a bit. They've been taking like uppers kind of throughout their career to stay up, which is why like the whole beginning of your career, their career, they're just doing so much. Like you can just tell that they're like up for hours. So again, a lot of people see it as like an overnight success. It was not. They've been playing together for like 7 years, other than Ringo, who kind of just got slotted in. They've been cooking. They're ready. They're ready to go. They're ready for this. And they built up this huge following with this massive Liverpool, like Mercy Beat movement that they're coming out of. So they've got a lot going on. So then in October 13th, 15 million people watched the Beatles play the London Palladium, which is the UK's top variety show. So it's sort of like the Ed Sullivan show of the UK.
That's so many people.
It's insane.
That's a crazy amount of people.
And then following that, they start coining the term Beatlemania. This is where you first heard it. So Beatlemania. Because people are losing their minds. They're screaming.
If you watch videos, like after you listen to this podcast, like go on YouTube and just search up like Beatlemania. These girls. And it's like, it's kind of like, I guess a little bit more normal now. Like I don't even know who the like young kind of teeny bopper is now. Who would that be?
I don't know.
Do they have a teeny bopper?
Hey, if you're a teeny bopper, do you have a teeny bopper, like a head teeny bopper?
You know what I mean? Like, because it wouldn't be like Olivia Rodrigo, because like those are just like song girls.
Maybe Taylor Swift would be the only comparable.
But I mean, you know what I mean? But I mean,
boys,
like a boy that you're screaming at because you are in love with him.
I feel like maybe they don't have one.
That's so sad.
I know.
But these
we
girls,
need one.
The point of that is these girls are screaming.
They're screaming, and like this is kind of starting of the era where just like fans are everywhere.
Your
like,
neighbors are obsessed with having. Your neighbors literally have 7,000 people going into their apartment. Like that is literally the 9th person to walk up those steps.
To be fair, 4 units that people use those steps for, but these people who you just saw walk by literally come and go from their apartment 1,000 times a day and never know what they're doing. It's really weird. And often they're carrying in 2-liter bottles of soda, which like no judgment.
They were.
But like, no, did they have soda?
Yes.
They always have fucking soda. They're always carting in 2 liters of soda into their apartment. And I'm like, what? What's
how the story much here? Soda how many 2-liter bottles of soda?
Yeah, like every day. I think they have a team boy, but even still.
Oh yeah.
What's up with the 2-liter sodas? I'm keeping this in because what's up with the 2-liter sodas?
We need answers.
We need answers. So this starts the era of their fans going crazy. They're like threatened with violence. Like they have to get snuck out of places. Like it's literally, there's one story where like they parked the car in a certain spot and then like the cops thought they were being smart by like moving the car away so that fans couldn't swarm it, but then they couldn't find the car and they almost got trampled because they had to run an extra like 15 feet or something like that. Like it's crazy. Like it's just like, it's absolute pandemonium. Like I don't think we can even like picture what it is. And so Beatlemania starts to stick. They're now huge in Britain. They're like massive.
Yeah.
In Britain. Like they absolutely blow up. They take over the radio, everything. This like them playing the Palladium is huge.
She loves you.
Crazy.
Yeah,
she loves you. Yeah. Banger song. Then in November, the Beatles perform for a bunch of royals at the Royal Command performance. And during the performance, Lennon says the famous quote, "Will the people in the cheaper seats clap their hands and the rest of you just rattle your jewelry?"
Hell yeah.
which was one of my Goodreads quotes for the longest time.
Oh, wow.
When I was a teenager. And this is kind of like, again, tying into the thing that like something that the Beatles do that really endears them to the public is they are snarky. They're kind of witty. But like a quote like this where he's like, John Lennon's literally making a jab at the royal family.
My favorite like witty one. There's one that like fucking, it makes me laugh. I think it's in the George Harrison documentary, but it's somebody being like, has your life changed since like your career has kicked off? And he just goes, yeah.
But that's what they were like, and no one had done that before. Like there's a clip.
They're just like a smart, like they're being such smart asses.
They're being such smart asses, but they always do it with kind of like a little like he, so that like no, like you can see like the Queen freaking laugh at them making a joke about her jewelry, which is like crazy. Like no one would have ever done that.
Yeah.
And like there were some clips comparing the way that they talk to interviewers with the way that people talk to interviewers in the 50s. And like they'd be like, oh, how's your tour been? And he's like, my tour has been lovely, so pleasurable, blah, blah, blah. Then you have the Beatles come in, just be like,
yeah, there's also one where it's like, what do you miss? Like, where it's like, what do you miss about America, but now that you're back here in the UK, and they're all like the weather or whatever, like they're being like cheeky.
Yeah, they're being cheeky. There's also another one that's like, how do you respond to claims that you're un-American? And they go, well, we're not American. That's an astute observation. Like they're so snarky in that very British way, and that very British like working class way.
We're like, what are you going to do with all that new money? And then literally all four of them are like, what money or whatever.
Money?
Like they are just
they don't pay us anything. Like they're just like they're ripping into these people. Okay, so at this time, they're huge in Britain. They have not really made an entrance to the United States at all.
Across the pond.
So Capitol Records, which is a subsidiary of EMI, that's in the United States. You might know Capitol Records from the Capitol Records building. So Capitol Records in the United States, they're kind of looking at the Beatles like, it's kind of like, that's interesting what's happening in Britain, but like this probably won't go over well in the States, blah, blah, blah. And then what do you know what happens in November 1963?
Is this when they played the Ed Sullivan Show?
No, not yet.
Okay. November of night. Is this like a historical event?
It's a historical event. You might not know it.
What happens?
JFK is shot.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I would have to see it written out in numbers that I might even.
No, that's fair enough. I just thought you might know because you're American. So,
well, yeah, I read that book all about the assassination of JFK. I was just really thinking. I was really just thinking in Beatles terms. I was like, I don't know.
I threw you a curveball there.
Yeah.
So JFK is shot and killed, and
that's crazy. But do you know that he like Lee Harvey Oswald wanted to kill like the attorney general, who is like a very right-wing person, and failed. Like he couldn't do it. He was foiled. So he's just like, you know what? I'll shoot JFK.
Whatever. Honestly, respect. If you shoot for the moon, and if not, you'll land amongst the stars.
Literally.
The stars being
and then him being assassinated is really nuts. Did you know this?
Was he also assassinated?
He was assassinated like the day after. Like that's why like a lot of conspiracy theories are there, because like it's a very like narratively unsettling thing, which is like what murder and people who are not well are. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Which is why people think it's a conspiracy, because they're like, but he was like a Marxist. Like why would he do that?
Yeah.
And because he was murdered, like we're not going to get the answers that we want. No. But like the answer is like he had a God complex and he wanted to murder someone.
That's crazy.
But yeah, he was like assassinated in the streets like right after.
Holy shit.
He also, I think, killed a cop beforehand.
No comment.
I literally just watched a video essay about this. That's why I'm like,
crazy.
Because I forgot that he was also like basically assassinated right afterwards, which is
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So JFK is shot. Around this time, Brian Epstein brings a demo of a new Beatles song to Capitol Records in America. It's called I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Oh, Bob.
And this kind of piques Capitol Records' interest. There's also this idea that kind of, because JFK had been shot, the states...
People wanted to hold hands.
People wanted to hold hands. But like the United States was kind of in this like cultural downpour term, because like the 50s had been such a kind of like prosperous time. There'd been a lot of like, you know, nationwide kind of patriotism. And now you're thrown into
their president was shot on TV.
Their president was shot on TV, who was kind of like emblematic of this hope for the future that America had. Now he's dead. They're in the Vietnam War, which most people are not very thrilled about at all.
The Vietnamese, one of them.
Yeah, the Vietnamese not
happy about it.
And then shockingly, Americans not super happy about it as well, which is, as soon as you televise the war, they're going to get pissed. Fun fact.
Also the draft as well, being like, you have to go. And everyone's like, why?
Yeah, it's like, we just did this 15 years ago.
I don't want to go. And this one like barely makes, like, not like the other one super made sense, but at least in like World War II, like.
No, the Vietnam War made no fucking sense. Like, what the hell
at least in World War II,
like,
on? Crimes are happening. We need to get in there to stop them. This is just for like what?
Yeah.
Capitalistic interests worldwide? Like, get fucking real.
It's crazy. So then, for some unprecedented reason, a month before the Beatles come to the United States, because they're slotted to come in the winter of 1964, Capitol Records launches a like $50,000 promotional campaign. So they're just like, we're putting out
That's
the Beatles.
That's a fucking dream, man.
This is what I'm saying. And
Where's my $50,000 promotional campaign?
Where's my $50,000 promotional campaign? It would get you like 2 Instagram ads these days.
I know.
Talk about inflation. They release their album under the title Meet the Beatles, which is a different album title, but because they're American and they're special. Also around this time, there's a guy at a Canadian record label in Oshawa who releases a bunch of Beatles compilations under his label, like before they launch in the States, which is just a fun tidbit of history.
Yeah, he's like, I'll just release it.
Yeah, so there's still these like Beatles compilations that were only ever available in Canada because this guy just kind of like got in on the word of the Beatles. Isn't that kind of crazy?
It's insane that's just happening out of Oshawa, out of all places.
Which is like, if you don't know Oshawa, it's like maybe the worst city outside of Toronto.
It's just like a train stop. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, like, it's just like if you're on the train.
The Dirty Schwa.
The Schwa.
The Dirty Schwa. I say this with confidence. I have friends from, some of my best friends are from
Some
Oshawa.
of my best friends are from Oshawa. Some of my best Beatles compilations were made in Oshawa.
But it's crazy. It's such a weird part of history.
That's really funny.
So then they release the album in the States. The Beatles come over to the States. Starts the era of people being at the airport saying goodbye to them. So they leave Heathrow Airport. There's like tons of screaming fans. They're losing their minds. They get on the plane. They go over to the States. And to their surprise, there's tons of screaming fans at JFK Airport. They're like, kind of like, what the hell? Like, I guess we broke in here.
Well, I mean, also when times are bad, like it also makes sense why there are so many teeny boppers on the heels of like the Great Recession.
Absolutely.
Like the girls need something to cling on to.
The girls need happiness. They need hope and joy.
I need a cute boy to project onto. So help me God.
I need a cute
boy.
And
it can never be understated having options. Like I think this is where Bieber failed, where One Direction succeeded, and same with the Beatles. You want to be able to pick, because then if we're both fans of the Beatles, we don't have to fight. No, because we've picked different Beatles.
I have John and you have Paul.
Exactly.
No, this is the thing. Like in Pamela de Bear's book at the beginning, she's like, we're Beatles girls and we can never pick the same Beatle. Like if we wanted to switch, it was like, oh, you better find a different group. Yeah, because someone already has George.
And if you like George, then it's going to be a real fucking problem.
Yeah, exactly. So the publicity's worked. They've got some fans, and then they are slotted to go on the Ed Sullivan Show, like a day after they get into New York City. What happens right before they go on the Ed Sullivan Show, the day before? George Harrison just absolutely gets murked by a crazy fever. He's so sick.
Oh my God, it's like the Michael Jordan flu basketball game.
Literally, like
poison pizza. He gets poisoned by the pizza.
He gets poisoned by the pizza?
That's crazy.
No,
it's a Michael Jordan thing. A lot of people said he was either hungover or was a little sick, but his whole theory is like right before a big game, he had a big fever that day and he was like feeling so ill. Yeah. But he plays anyway and like puts up mad points and like it's part of his like Michael Jordan like lore.
Yes.
But he claims that when they ordered pizza, the pizza place poisoned the pizza, and everyone's like, well, you were drinking a lot. He's like, I didn't drink. And they're like, but you're probably hungover.
But you were probably hungover. So George Harrison struck down by a crazy fever, and they're like, shit, he's not going to be able to. Like, this is not our twinkiest boy getting shot down by a fever. They go in, they have to rehearse for the Ed Sullivan Show without George. They get like someone to stand in on him and guitar, and they're like, we don't know if he's going to be able to make it. It's jeopardizing the whole.
Oh, so he's like really sick.
He's really sick.
You would assume that like if you could just be like, prop yourself up and like.
No. He's incoherent. Like he's like, he can like barely open his eyes. His fever is like 105 or 106 or something. His sister, who lives in the States, comes to like take care of him and tries to nurse him back to health. And she can like barely get in the hotel because there's so many like screaming fans. And so the rest
George
of the Beatles are
like,
they're going on a tour in New York. They're going to a swanky dinner. George Harrison literally
dying.
in bed, like absolutely like death's door. Mm-hmm. The next day he's feeling a bit better. Thank God, because then they do the historic performance on the Ed Sullivan Show, which to this day is so legendary. It is viewed by 73 million people, which is an estimated 43% of the US population who have televisions, which is crazy.
That's so nuts.
Can you imagine that? 43%. That's like, what the fuck?
And I think also like you have to also again like filter that through that the value of a view on television in that
So
time is
high.
infinitely way more valuable than like somebody scrolling past something on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like I think our like understanding of like the value of a view is really like skewed. People are like, I have over 100 views on million views on TikTok, and you're like, right, but like a lot of times
Right.
people just scroll like
It's a
seeing 3
glance.
seconds of it and
Yeah.
then like scrolling past it as
It's a
opposed to being
glance,
like,
love.
no, they're watching.
No, they're watching, they're tuned the fuck
they're
in.
processing, they're remembering.
Yeah. So on the Ed Sullivan Show, they're very iconic. They do an excellent job. People are losing their minds. There's over 700 people in the audience of the Ed Sullivan Show.
And again, they're good lives. So like
And they're so good lives. You can see in the original tape that George is a bit confused. He keeps like switching microphones to sing backup vocals, which I get. I feel for him.
Hey, he's out there.
He's out there. He's trying his
And he
best.
wasn't at rehearsal.
No, he wasn't at rehearsal.
So he's just like, okay.
So then they get the nickname the Fab Four and the Mop Tops because of their hair.
Yeah.
And it's said that like America just needed hope. They needed like a joy. They needed something they could kind of cling on to. And I think that's a big part of why so many people latched onto it.
I mean, especially if you're not feeling patriotism at the time because your country is about to rampage Vietnam and then lose horribly.
So also on the Ed Sullivan Show the same night as the Beatles was the New York Broadway cast of Oliver, which I just think is really
That's
funny.
actually really iconic.
Can you imagine being like in the Oliver chorus and the Beatles make their American TV debut? And you're like, hey, did you see me? I was in the back in Papa. That's iconic. That would be me.
43% of America saw me with TV.
43% of America saw me in Oliver on TV, and it's my Broadway debut. Bitch. Anyway, so this is kind of like once that happens, the Beatles are here. Beatlemania has reached America. The British invasion has begun. It's fucking wild. It's the beginning of this youth culture movement. It's the girls are going crazy. This is also kind of like the first time in Britain and the States and like everywhere the Beatles hit that like the youth could look at their futures as being something more than just like a copy of whatever their mom or their dad was.
Yes.
Which is like cool.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Like it's epic and the girls were desiring things. It's epic. And
Which
the
we
youth
love
have
to
power.
see.
And this marks a shift in from like older people used to kind of pick what the culture was and then the youth would catch on to it. And this marks us shifting into the youth determining culture, which is
That's
really
cool.
interesting. And so the Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand is released in the United States. It hits #1 in 3 weeks and it's 7 weeks at the top of the charts. She Loves You then goes on the charts as well, which gives way to Can't Buy Me Love, which is also on the charts. As many as 3 new songs a week were released until on April 4th, 1964. The Beatles had the top 5 slots on the Billboard list of what we would now know as the Billboard Top 100, which then I guess was the top.
Taylor Swift would have blocked them if it was
She
nowadays.
would've
She would have
released-
a variant. That's all I'm saying.
So 1 week later after that, 14 of the top 100 songs were the Beatles.
Jesus Christ.
It's crazy.
14.
It's
that is nuts.
It's fucking crazy. Then they release A Hard Day's Night along with a movie, A Hard Day's Night, which there's United. Oh my God, what were they? United Artists Records. They kind of capitalized on the fact that Capitol Records kind of gave the Beatles not an amazing contract because they didn't have a lot of faith in them. So United Artists Records, they offer their film divisions offer the Beatles a movie deal for 3 movies with the intent that they would write soundtracks to go along with these movies. They release Hard Day's Night. It's a hit. People love it and the critics love it. And it's kind of like semi-autobiographical. They're like running around being themselves, blah, 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 blah. And they're kind of now shifting into this thing where they're writing all their own music, which is also huge for the time. They're kind of moving away from this standards thing.
Well, because they also have like, wasn't this right before they signed their deal with Brian Epstein or whatever, even in the UK, like Lennon and McCartney made their like little company, their songwriting like company that they would always split the like, they would always split the like fucking credit, even if somebody only wrote like one line or whatever.
That's so interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that, but that makes a lot of sense.
Because they're best friends, and and that's never going to change.
It's never going to change.
Always going to have absolutely equal stake in that company. No one's going to secretly buy shares later. No one's going to be secretly buying shares behind the other's back.
Never gonna happen.
So don't worry about it.
So here we are. Hard Day's Night is out. They've got a bunch of albums out. The fans are going crazy. The fans are going to the family in Liverpool. There's stories of like Paul McCartney's dad like inviting people in for tea when he realized they'd come a long way, and like, showing them pictures of like Paul and stuff like that. Like,
can I say something that I realized listening to the last episode that I'm embarrassed about?
Yeah.
You would always say Paul McCartney, and then I would go into We Can't Stop the Fire.
Yeah, I was confused by that.
It's Joe McCartney.
It's Joe McCarthy.
McCarthy, like of McCarthyism.
I was confused why you were doing that, but
because I thought it was Paul
with
McCartney, and then I listened to the song because I love that fucking song, and I was like, it's Joe McCarthy.
Joe
of McCarthyism.
The
television, North Korea, South Korea, Maryland.
I was confused why you were doing that, but I figured I just said something like a few sentences back, and then
about
I didn't
Joe
want to
McCarthy.
seem stupid.
And I love that.
Joe McCarthy, Richard.
You just sometimes you get a yes and then eventually, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're too much
like,
of
what would be
improvisers.
better content? Us singing We Can't Stop the Fire, or you being like, what?
We can't stop the fire.
Honestly, so that's how we go. You can't stop
the fire. Also at this time, George starts dating Patty Boyd.
That's going to be fine.
Who's a model.
I'm sure
that's going to be fine. Nothing's going to go wrong with that.
Nothing's going to go wrong.
Nothing's going to go wrong. She gets like punched to the face at one point.
By who?
A woman who thinks that she's like George Harrison's. No, like this is the thing. The fans are crazy. The fans are crazy.
Because I knew that like the fans were crazy to One Direction, but like, girl, nobody's punching fucking Eleanor Calder in the face.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's insane.
No, it's nuts.
You can't, guys. You cannot punch Patty Boyd in the face. That is nuts.
You can't do it. So they're touring all around America. It's nuts. Like they're just touring, they're recording, they're writing songs. They're like nonstop. In 1964, they meet Bob Dylan, and he introduces them to weed, and the rest is history. It's like a huge meeting of the minds. It results in the Beatles getting into weed and getting more into like lyricism, like Bob Dylan. Mm-hmm. John Lennon starts kind of like mimicking his style, and Bob Dylan goes electric. Rest is history.
Well, yeah, I always think of the Beatles' relationship with Dylan to be very like, obviously, like everybody wanted to be Dylan, but they really wanted the like cultural or like the critical success that he had of like being thought of as important.
Yes,
because especially at this point when they were playing concerts, the screaming was so loud
they couldn't hear themselves.
Yeah, and have you heard that story where they were playing in Japan and it was less loud? And George could like hear what they were playing. He was like, "Oh, we became really bad at playing live because like you're just not hearing yourself the whole time."
No.
So it's like, and of course, obviously, in society is permeated by misogyny. We're all pigs and shit. We're covered in it.
And shit.
Of people definitely in the 60s did not feel as though having your fans be screaming girls orgasming in the stands to be like
legitimate.
Even though obviously, as we know,
it's the most legitimate.
It's literally the only way to know you have juice.
Yeah.
As an artist. But, you know, at that point, you're like, but what? I don't want that. I want like Maoists to sit and nod to my work, you know?
Thank you. So this is kind of where we're leaving off. Because 1965 is kind of a bit of a turning point, a new era.
Okay.
So we're going to leave off in 1964. They're smoking pot. They're going crazy. But also something during their 1964 US tour, they were faced with, they were touring, I believe, in Florida. And they learned that their concert was going to be racially segregated. And they said, we won't play here if the concert's racially segregated.
And fucking fair. Like, that is nuts.
And they said, we never play to segregated audiences, and we aren't going to start now. I'd sooner lose our appearance money. The city officials relented and agreed to allow an integrated show.
That's really good,
They also canceled their reservations at the whites only hotel that they were staying at. And then for subsequent US tours in the 60s, they had a clause that they would not play any racially segregated concerts, which is honestly, that's cool of them. Good for you,
That's
the Beatles.
Actually really cool. I saw a video online the other day of somebody interviewing a civil rights activist, like one of the people that did like the lunch counter sit-ins where they would go be black people and they would go sit at the whites only lunch counters to like protest and move along racial integration. And he was like, I sat there and we were finally like allowed to sit at the whites only counter. And I got a meal there, and the meal was so bad. And I was like, this is what we wanted. Okay. And they was like, but it's not about the meal. It's about the right to do it. But like,
it's not about the chicken
white people tacos.
White people taco night.
What is that, tuna and mayo?
What is that, chicken and mayo? It's like beef and cheese. Oh, you have a bit of flavoring.
But you season it.
No.
Oh.
God, I'm so calm-pilled. It's not even funny. So that's where I leave you, because after this, shit kind of goes crazy. But
that's for next week.
That's for next week. And honestly, the more I learn about the Beatles, I feel like this is going to be kind of like going back and forth into different things all the time, because like there is just so many layers to everything. So yeah, 1964, the Beatles have fucking arrived. It's Beatlemania, British invasion. Let's fucking go.
Shall we do our segment?
Yes.
Let's make this tragedy about us. This is the section where usually we're doing a tragedy and we make the tragedy that happened in history that we're talking about us. But the Beatles aren't a tragedy. So, but you know, we need to make whatever we're learning about in history about us in some way. And that's what we shall do.
Can I name a tragedy really quick? That's different. A real tragedy. We need a theme song.
Okay.
I think we need a theme song. That's something I've been thinking at the beginning, at the end. We've been using Defying Gravity. I love it. But I think we need something.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can do some kind of Los Culturistas. I like that kind of thing.
Yeah, something
short, but we're kind of doing a little skit.
I see us singing it.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Well, you're a vocalist and I'm not, so that worries me.
I see a professional singer singing it.
Okay.
I see beats being dropped. I see maybe Dead Mouse on the track.
Oh, maybe Dead Mouse 5.
Maybe we get Dead Mouse 5. We get maybe Grimes.
Ooh, okay. Anyway,
rehabilitation. You know, I was just thinking about other tragedies.
That's true. We should get a theme song.
Yeah. So
that will be our September goal.
If you guys have any theme song ideas,
email us at girlhistorians@gmail.com.
Anyway.
Here's my question. What's the question?
Okay, I said last week that I was going to ask you, what Beatle are you?
But there's lots of time to also ask what Beatle.
There's lots of times. So I was going to say, what country do you wish would have like a culture invasion to Canada, where all of a sudden, because I will say, I feel like it kind of happened recently. I feel like there was a bit of a Korean invasion. I feel like Korean culture has been huge.
There's also been a big Irish resurgence thanks to Normal People and Sally Rooney, I feel like.
Yes.
Not as much as Korea. I agree that like the actual culture, like people are so much more aware of K-pop and stuff like that. It's
huge.
Cool.
And it's like Korean.
Okay, great question.
Yes. It can also be, pick a country.
A country. Okay. Do you have an answer while I'm thinking of mine?
No.
Okay. I've got two.
Yes.
I think Germany would be cool.
Yes.
Because always, when I went to Berlin, they're really like on the kind of cutting edge and stuff.
I want that scary club to open up, like to franchise. I want Bergheim to franchise.
Toronto, like Soho House. There's one in every city.
Yeah, I want Bergheim to franchise, and like each one is managed by like a different old man.
Yeah. So I think that could be cool.
Yes.
I also just I love Mexico.
Oh,
I think it's a great place. I wouldn't mind a Mexican invasion.
Yeah.
I think it's literally the best food in the entire world.
Yeah.
I also just think the way that their culture was run, we talked about this, where like lunch is the big meal and all this stuff. It just makes sense to me.
Mexican music also
rocks.
And
there's a lot of vegan food like in the big cities now. Beans, black beans. Are you fucking kidding me?
Beans.
Maybe some telenovelas.
I would love to have, and I think we almost got this with Los Spookies a little bit, where it was like a Spanish speaking show that really kind of got the English audience. But like, I would love that. Need like a Spanish speaking show that we're all tuning into. I think that's going to be huge.
Other one. I don't know. This is not a country. Is this a country? They're going to get so mad at me. Wales. I think it would just be funny. We never hear about Wales.
I'm always like, what's going on in Wales?
But I love Wales.
I'm always like,
But you know what I mean? Like, it's not the same way. Like, we kind of know what's going on in Ireland. We know what's going on in England. We know about Scotland.
Yeah.
But we're,
what's going on in Wales?
Wales is doing quiet luxury. Like, Wales is just kind of succeeding quietly. And I'd love to know what's going on there.
I would love to know what's going on
just in Wales. Just a massive random Welsh invasion.
Yes, I agree.
I would love that.
I agree.
What about you?
I don't know.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
That's my version of Let's Make This Tragedy About Us. If you were in the 60s or whatever.
Yes.
What, if we're talking about Pamela DeBar's book where it's like everybody picks a Beatle, which Beatle are you picking as your fan? John, I could see that for you.
That's what I did. Like as a teenager, I was a big John Lennon fan. Like it was like, and I would be like, it's an unfortunate trait that I have. John, easily
Yeah, I
John.
will say after last episode when the question was which one of us is John and which one of us is Paul, and you said John, it's really shaken my view of my own personality.
That you think you're John?
Well, yeah, I didn't think I was John, but then you said I was John, and now I really see it.
Well, in our
duo, I agree.
You are John, I am Paul.
I agree.
I think I stand by that.
I absolutely agree.
I think in real life that is not true.
But in the duo, yes.
But in the duo, that is the dynamic.
And I didn't think about that before because I also really don't like John Lennon.
No, I know you don't. But I think John Lennon wouldn't like himself.
No, this is the thing.
Yeah, I don't think I could be like, I'm the John Lennon of this group and be like,
because you like John Lennon.
I like John Lennon.
No, I agree.
Also, do I even Paul like John Lennon? I have really mixed feelings about John Lennon.
Well, you like that he beat his wife.
I love that he beat his wife.
You love that. It's
got to be one of my
top 5 John Lennon hits.
Top 5.
Beating his wife. Women are the R words of gender.
Dude, people love
yesterday.
People love that format for things. Just like blank is
the blank of blank.
Blank is the N-word of the slur. Like,
yeah, it's like no. Well, it's that John Mulaney quote where he's saying like they were saying that the slur, like the M slur for little people, is like saying the N word, and he was like, "Well, you're saying one, and you're not saying the other, so it's not the same." Yeah. I think honestly, as a person now, I obviously love Paul. I love Paul. Yeah. And I like that he's a wife guy. Yeah. There's a lot of things that are appealing to me about him. Also, like, he was the one that was kind of like, I'm not going to do this. Like, I'm not going to. He kind of like, they went to India, were doing LSD, and he was like, I don't like this that much. Like, I'm just going to chill and be a vegetarian and whatever. So I do really like Paul. But I also feel like I could be really swayed in a different life to be a George Harrison girl.
No, you're George Harrison girl.
There's something about someone who's like, I'm going to do LSD until my brain is melted and learn the sitar. Yeah. There's something about that level of mental illness that's like, I can fix him. No, really, I can't.
Because Reese actually told me secretly that he's been learning sitar to surprise you.
My theory is, and I hope this never happens, but if Reese and I break up, like, he is gonna become the kind of white guy that gets way too much into like Eastern transcendentalism.
Has Reese ever done a psychedelic drug?
No.
It would change him. It would fundamentally. And Reese, if you're listening to this, I don't think he listens. Does he listen to the podcast? Reese, look him up on Instagram. Reese Naylor on Instagram, Carley's boyfriend. Find him on a profile. He does one psychedelic drug.
It's over.
It's over. Like it's done. Like that would like
he's getting the Hare Krishnas on the album.
Yeah, there are some people who like they do psychedelics and they're like, oh, eye-opening, really cool. There are some people
who do psychedelics and it fundamentally
changes their brain. They're like, I'm breathing and looking at things for the first time. That'd be Reese.
Yes, I agree.
You should do psychedelics.
I agree.
That'd be fun. It'd be a lot for you to deal with in the house.
Yeah, I don't know if I want that, but I do agree that I could see that happening.
Shelf of just elephant figurines.
This is what I'm saying. Like, he's going to be wearing like those loose pants that white women buy in India when they go to India.
Yeah, your house becomes so culturally appropriative.
Exactly. He's like, you're going to answer the door and he's going to have a bindi.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be like, I've told him he can't wear the bindi, but he doesn't listen to me.
It's his third eye.
And he like changes his name to like a more like Hindu name or something like that.
No, like it's so it would just be over for him.
Yeah. And I'd be like,
it would just be over here.
No, good. I guess like that's literally what Patty Boyd was going for. She's like, no, good,
cool.
Good.
No, I love the sitar.
Okay, it's cool. This is great.
It's really
that's
cool.
Awesome.
And no one's looking at you like you're being wildly offensive in this Indian temple visit right now.
No, everyone loves it.
Well,
okay.
On that note, I think we're remote recording next week, maybe.
Yes, I'll be coming at you live from the peg.
From the peg. Someone else is getting pegged next week. It's me.
Blair is going to get pegged and I'll be in Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm. But you're going to be winning the peg.
I'll be winning the peg.
We've been recording too long. I'm sorry.
I know, we have a lot. No, I know. Our brains are mush, but this is Beatlemania, mama.
Beatlemania!
We'll come back next week and talk about the Beatles' new era.
More of the Beatles. Love you so much. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
This podcast has been brought to you by the Sonar Network.